welcome to your first lesson in Japanese. As I mentioned, we are going to be going through this textbook. If you want some extra practice, do get this. You can get it on Amazon for like 20 bucks. You can practice writing the characters in here. It is a great resource, but just a standard notebook and paper will also work if you can't afford to commit to a textbook right now. So let's get started. First, let me explain how the text in these lessons is going to work. I am going to follow the same method that George Trombley uses in his book and slowly introduce the hiragana characters. However, I also recognize that some of you might already know the characters. There are tons of free apps that you can download to learn them all quickly, and you can honestly have them mastered in maybe a couple of days. They're not as difficult as you might think, and it is very helpful to learn them straight away. But if you don't have the time to do that, or you don't want to do that, we will introduce them gradually. So for right now, I am going to have the hiragana at the top and the romaji at the bottom. But as new characters are taught officially, I will slowly start excluding those romaji characters. Because we haven't introduced any characters yet, all of the words are going to have complete romaji with them. Let's talk a little bit about pronunciation. So the 5 vowels in Japanese are the same as they are in English, but they're not pronounced the same. They are also in a different order. In English, we say A, E, I, O, U, but in Japanese, it's A, E, U, E, O. All of the other characters are formed by adding consonants to these vowels. For example, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, na, ni, nu, ne, no, like that. So let's look at our first vocabulary word. It is 3 letters in the romaji, but it is only 2 hiragana characters. It is pronounced inu. Inu. Inu means dog. Then we have the word for cat. This one is also only 2 hiragana characters, but it is 4 letters in romaji. This is why it's very important to learn the kana, because when you start getting longer words, the romaji actually makes it much more difficult to read. So if you're on that board of, oh, I'll just learn the romaji, don't do it. Learn the hiragana. It will help you. It actually makes it easier, I promise. Anyway, so dog is inu and cat is neko. Next, we're going to learn how to say yes and no. To say yes in Japanese, it's just hai. To say no in Japanese, it's iie. Notice that there are 2 vowels here. That's very, very important. You must lengthen out that vowel sound in order to have the correct pronunciation. If you do not, you actually say a different word completely. It is not ie. Ie is house. Ie is no. Ie. Ie. Make sure you lengthen out that E sound. E. Next up, we have your very first verb. It is wakaru, and it means to understand. So let's take a look at this conversation. The teacher asks, wakarimasu ka? Wakarimasu ka? Do you understand? The boy looks a little confused. He says, iie. Wakarimasen. Wakarimasen. No, I don't understand. The girl says, hai. Wakarimasu. Wakarimasu. Yes, I understand. These are all very important phrases, especially when you are a beginner in Japanese. This is a great way for you to communicate that at the very least, you understood or you didn't understand what someone said to you. Now, we also have 2 phrases here. I am not a fan of teaching phrases. However, these are some really good phrases to help get you started. We will kind of briefly talk about the grammar, but don't worry about it too much because we will go over it in more detail later. So, the first phrase is もう一度言ってください. もう is again. 一度 is once. 言って means say. And ください means please. In Japanese, the grammar is backwards from English. Again once. Say please. In English, we would say, please say it once again. Please say it one more time. すみません。もう一度言ってください. The second phrase is もっとゆっくり言ってください. もっとゆっくり言ってください. もっと means more. There is a slight pause. Every time you see a double consonant like this, the double T here, double K here, another double T here, you must pause slightly before you continue to the next syllable. We will talk more about that later. Just for right now, know that when you see a double consonant in the romaji, you must pause a little. So, motto is more. Yukkuri is slowly. Ite, say, and once again, kudasai, please. More slowly. Say, please. Please say it more slowly. So, these are very good phrases when you are practicing your Japanese for the first time. Now, let's start making some sentences. To make a very basic sentence in Japanese, all you're going to do is take your word and add des. Now, this U here is very rarely pronounced. Whenever we have a final U at the end of a word, most of the time it gets dropped. So it's not desu, it's des. Now, sometimes you will hear people emphasize the su for different reasons. Maybe they're trying to put emphasis on something. Maybe they're trying to be funny or cute. But most of the time, it's just going to be des. Now, des in Japanese is the to be verb. It can mean is, am, or are. It does all three of those things. So, this means that the sentence neko desu means both it is a cat and also they are cats. Plurals are not used in Japanese very often. This might seem a little confusing, but the context will always make it crystal clear what they mean. The only time that this is ever really difficult is if you are walking into a conversation halfway. If you came into a conversation and you missed the context, you might be confused. But most of the time, it's going to be super duper obvious and you're not going to have to worry about it. I mean, looking at these pictures, it's very clear when there's only one cat, neko desu means it is a cat. When there are a whole bunch of cats, then neko desu means they are cats. The context will always make this easy, so no worries there. Now, Japanese grammar relies on particles, and honestly, it is some of my favorite grammar out of all of the languages that I have studied. I love, love, love Japanese grammar. It is so much easier than other languages, especially English. It's way, way easier than English. So, what is a particle? Particles are function words that show relations of other words within a sentence. Now, there are technically 188 particles, and that sounds like a lot, but don't worry because it's really just the same particle being used multiple times. Many of these particles have multiple uses. For example, to can mean and also with. So it would be listed for both of those things separately. It's not as difficult as it first seems, and you will learn each of the particles gradually with time. Today, you're going to learn the question particle, which is ka. It can change a normal sentence into a question. It's also obviously used with question words, like standard questions. It kind of acts like a verbal question mark. So we can take a sentence like neko desu and add ka, neko desu ka, to change it into a question. Neko desu, it is a cat. Neko desu ka, is it a cat? Let's practice a bit. Take a moment and try to read these sentences on your own. Inu desu ka? Hai, inu desu. What does it mean? Inu desu ka? Is it a dog? Hai, inu desu. Yes, it is a dog. How about this one? Pause the video if you need to. Try to translate these sentences. Inu desu ka? Iie. Neko desu. What does this mean? Inu desu ka? Is it a dog? Iie. Neko desu. No, it's a cat. How about this one? Neko desu ka? How would you answer in Japanese? Hai, neko desu. Now, what does this mean in English? It is a cat, or they are cats. Obviously, it's they are cats, right? There are 3 of them. They are cats. Context makes a big difference. How about this one? How would you answer? Inu desu ka? Hai, inu desu. Is it a dog? Yes, it's a dog. Neko desu ka? Iie. Inu desu. All right, now we are going to learn your first 5 hiragana characters. They are the 5 vowels. First, let's look at how all 5 of them are pronounced together. They are a, I, u, e, o. A, I, u, e, o. Now, let's look at these little pictographs to help you remember which one is which. So this one and this one are confused a lot in the beginning. They are a little bit similar, but this one is a, and you can think of it like this little man here. Look at the little man. And there's a snake wrapped around him and he's screaming, ah! Then this one's pretty easy to remember. If you think of it as being 2 little eyes, this is I, I. It is pronounced like a long E, like the long E is in English, but it is used with the letter I instead. And this is another reason why learning the hiragana is very important, because your brain will see the I and it will want to pronounce it like the English I. Same thing with the E here. You'll want to pronounce it the English way. But if you associate the sound with the way the character looks, you will never have a problem with pronunciation. You will always pronounce it flawlessly. So, learn the hiragana. Do it. Next up, we have u. And we have a little gym rat here who is lifting a heavy barbell. And he's grunting. Ooh, it's so heavy. Oh, I can't do it. Ooh, too heavy. Next up, we have e for exercise. Exercise. And finally, we have o for oasis. It has a little water here, a palm tree, very poorly drawn palm tree, and a sun with sunglasses. This is oasis. Not to be confused with snake. So one more time. A, I, U, E, O. Say it with me. A, I, U, E, O. Okay, now, if you have a piece of notebook paper, you can write this with me. If you have the textbook, there is plenty of writing practice in here, so you can just skip over this part if you would like to. But let's talk about the stroke order. Let me get my pencil here. So our first line, I am drawing with a mouse. That does make things more difficult. It is a little bit curved here. It is not a straight line, and that is important as far as your handwriting is concerned. And then we're gonna have like a noodle looking shape here. Comes up like this. So let me draw it again without the lines here. So this is your first step. Draw your line down like this. A little bit curved. There you go. Next up we have E. E is really easy. We have this one, which kind of ticks up. And then this one, which is really short. Once again, tick up. And like this. Next up, we have U. And this one is pretty straightforward. You just have a little line here. And then it looks a little bit like a sideways U. And like it's waving like, help, I fell over. Please pick me up. So that can help you remember that this is the letter U. Or the U sound. Now, E is a little bit more complicated. We still have this little tick mark down. But then this part here is a little bit like a Z shape with a little wiggle at the end. So you're gonna kind of go up and then come down. It's really hard to do with a mouse. Curve it up and then flick it outwards. So once again, come down, draw your arms, your torso, and then his feet, like that. And if you don't have access to this textbook, you can find printables online for free, and you can print those out and practice writing it that way. I do recommend doing that because it will help you to remember the stroke orders as well as the characters themselves. It's a very good memorization tool. So if you can, practice writing these. So that was E. Then we have O, which is our last one. So this one, you're actually going to draw your arms first, just like with the A. And now this is where it's different from A. Remember, A goes this way, and then we have this part here that comes down and then like a noodle shape, right? This one is all one stroke. You're gonna come down first, and then you're gonna make like a circle. And don't forget your sun. That's where your sun goes. So, one more time, arms across, come down, but then make your circle all in one big thing. And then draw your sun. Come over, come straight down, curve it, draw your sun. And that's how you make the O. All right, let's practice. Take a look at this character. Pause the video if you need to. Which hiragana character is this? I'm gonna go, need to lose weight. I'm gonna go, exercise, And look at that, you got a horse. Okay, how about this one? What is it? If I added two little circles on top, it would look like two little eyes. And what sound does it make? E, E. Congratulations, you got a cow. Next up, what is this one? It doesn't have a sun, so it's not O. Looks like someone has a snake wrapped around them. So what are they saying? Ah! This is ah, ah. And we got some vegetables and a duck. Next up, we have this one. What do you think it is? Looks like he's fallen over. He's waving at you. What is it? Ooh. Ooh, this barbell's so heavy. Ooh, ooh. This is ooh. Ooh. And we got a pig. Last one, what is this? There's only one character left. We did ooh, and So this one must be oasis. And we found our farmer. Congratulations on finishing your first lesson. I do have some homework for you. Take a picture of this if you need to. These are vocabulary words that you need to memorize before the next lesson. Now, you don't have to memorize the kanji unless you just want to. You don't even technically have to memorize the kana right now, but if you do know kana, if you are familiar with it, go ahead and try. Give it a shot. See if you can read the kana instead of the romaji. And then obviously you need to know the English. And that's it for this lesson. I will see you next time. Bye.